2 hours is just too exhausting, honey. My mother said it like she was declining a dinner reservation, not like she was talking about her daughter's wedding. A month earlier, she had flown across 15 states, booked a luxury resort in Naples, coordinated matching outfits, and spent $40,000 on a gender reveal for my sister. But my wedding? 2 hours was too much. My dad didn't even look up when he added, "We just traveled, Stella. You understand." And my sister, of course, sent a laughing emoji and, "Maybe next time." Next time. Like weddings were something you could just reschedule between brunch plans. That was the moment something inside me went quiet. Not angry. Not even surprised. Just quiet. Because deep down, I think I'd been preparing for that moment my entire life. If you had walked into our house in Falls Church back then, you wouldn't have noticed anything wrong. 5-bedroom colonial, wraparound porch, fresh paint every spring. Everything looked perfect. My mom, Patricia, ran 5 boutique stores across Northern Virginia and treated them like her personal empire. My dad had a consulting firm. Steady, respectable, forgettable. And then there was Madison, 4 years younger than me, former pageant queen, lifestyle influencer. Married to a real estate developer who talked about money like it was oxygen. At every Sunday dinner, the seating arrangement never changed. My mom at the head, my dad next to her. Madison across from her husband like they were royalty. And me? At the end of the table, near the kitchen door. The one that swung open and bumped my chair every time someone went for more wine. Nobody ever said anything about it, but everybody understood. I'm Stella, by the way. I was 31 when everything finally broke. At the time, I was a freelance graphic designer, 1-bedroom apartment, a dent in my car I never bothered fixing. My mom used to call what I did Stella's little art thing. Not in a mean way, in that soft, dismissive tone that somehow hurts more. There's this photo in my parents' living room, family portrait, taken a few Christmases ago. If you look closely, my face is half cut off by the frame. Nobody ever fixed it. Nobody even noticed. But the pattern didn't start there. It started years earlier. I was 14. I entered a statewide art competition, over 1,000 entries, and I won first place. I remember standing on that stage, holding the plaque, scanning the crowd. Row 3. That's where my mom said she'd be sitting. Row 3 was empty. The whole section was empty. She was 40 miles away at a dress fitting for Madison's pageant. When I got home, still holding that plaque, she barely looked up. "Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry." "Madison's competition is in 2 weeks. You understand, right?" "My painting?" She said it would still be there tomorrow. It wasn't. It never hung anywhere. Years later, I found it in the garage, face down, wrapped in a trash bag, under a box of Madison's old sashes. That's when I stopped painting. Not because I wasn't good, because I realized I'd been performing for an audience that wasn't watching. I didn't understand it back then. I just kept trying harder, smiling more, being easier, less inconvenient. Because if I could just be enough, maybe one day they'd choose me too. And then I met David. It wasn't dramatic. No sparks, no music, no grand moment. Just a coffee shop in Georgetown. He was reading. I was sketching. He asked if I was an artist. I said, "Freelance designer." He smiled and said, "Same thing, just with invoices." We started talking. Then we didn't really stop. He wore flannel, drove a beat-up truck, ordered black coffee. He told me he worked in investments, and I pictured spreadsheets and modest savings accounts. Nothing impressive. Which, if I'm being honest, felt safe. Because for once, I wasn't being compared to anyone. For once, I wasn't the less impressive version of someone else. I was just me. When he proposed, it was simple. No audience, no announcement. Just the two of us by the water. I said yes before he even finished asking, and for a moment I thought, maybe this time would be different. I sent a photo to the family group chat, my hand. The ring, his arm around me. He asked. I said yes. 14 minutes later, my mom replied, "That's nice, sweetie." And then immediately, "Girls, what do we think about blush and gold for Madison's reveal?" That was it. That was my engagement. A sentence, and then a subject change. 3 months later, I sent out wedding invitations. Beautiful vineyard, spring bloom, less than 2 hours away. Easy, simple, close to home. I thought, maybe that would matter. 6 weeks passed, not a single RSVP. So I started calling. When my dad finally answered, he hesitated. Then he said, "Your mother thinks it might conflict with Madison's schedule." Madison's baby wasn't due for 4 months. I remember standing there, phone in my hand, waiting for him to correct himself. He didn't. Just silence. Long, familiar, heavy silence. That's when I should have understood. But I didn't. Not yet. Because hope has a way of keeping your eyes half closed, right before everything falls apart. By the time I got off the phone with my dad, I was already telling myself there had to be an explanation. There always was. Something temporary. Something logistical. Something that would make me feel stupid later for taking it personally. Then Madison's gender reveal happened, at the Ritz in Naples. Planner, photographer, live music. Custom everything. My mother sent out a color palette before the event, like she was directing a wedding editorial. Blush, gold, cream. Even the family members flying in from other states were expected to match. And they did. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years. All of them made it. I did too. I paid for my own flight, my own room, and sat at a table near the back of the ballroom where the staff moved in and out with trays of champagne. David came with me. Navy polo, khakis, calm as ever. Brett barely looked at him until dessert. "So, what exactly do you do?" he asked, leaning across the table with that fake friendly smile he used when he wanted to size someone up. "Investments," David said. Brett gave a short laugh. "What, like trading stocks out of your laptop?" David just took a sip of wine. "Something in that neighborhood." That was enough for Brett. He turned away and launched into a loud conversation with one of his friends about a private equity firm he was desperate to get in front of. "If I could get 15 minutes with the guy running Ashford Capital," he said, tapping the table like he was already counting future money, "that changes everything." David was sitting 3 feet away. I felt his hand under the table and squeezed it once. He squeezed back, steady, almost amused. Across the room, my mother was telling someone what the whole event cost, and she sounded proud of every dollar. I stood there later, clapping when pink confetti exploded over the water, and all I could think about were my wedding invitations sitting unopened on kitchen counters and entryway tables all over the East Coast. The replies started coming in not long after. Every single one was a no. Not angry, not apologetic, just convenient. Your aunt from Connecticut was worn out from traveling. Your cousin said Virginia was too much for one weekend. Madison texted that she was pregnant and needed to take it easy, which would have been more convincing if I hadn't watched her dancing in heels in Florida. My father wrote, "I'll do my best." He didn't. 10 days before the wedding, my mother called. Her voice had that syrupy softness she used when she wanted to make cruelty sound reasonable. "It's going to be small anyway, right?" I didn't answer. She kept going. "It's not like one of Madison's big events. Don't build this up into something it isn't." I stared at my invitation suite spread across my desk while she talked. Cream paper, gold lettering, the vineyard, the date. My wedding. Reduced to something she didn't think counted. After I hung up, I didn't cry. I opened my laptop. Then I started saving everything. Every declined RSVP. Every text. Every excuse. Not because I had a plan yet. Because I needed proof that I wasn't imagining it. The day of the wedding was bright and almost painfully beautiful. The vineyard looked like a postcard. Wisteria spilling over the arbor. Rows of white chairs, mountains in the distance. David's side filled in early. Family, Friends. People who showed up without being chased. My side stayed mostly empty. A few friends came. Nora came. A couple of people from my old job came. And then there were the empty chairs. So many empty chairs. The wedding planner touched my arm and quietly asked if she should move people around so it wouldn't look so uneven. I looked at those seats for a long second. "No," I said. "Leave them." She hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Yes." I wanted to see it exactly as it was. David found me before the ceremony and held both my hands. He didn't tell me it was okay. He didn't ask me to forgive anyone. He just looked straight at me and said, "This says something about them, not about you." That nearly broke me more than the empty seats did. The ceremony was beautiful anyway. Not because it was untouched by hurt, because it wasn't, because it happened in spite of it. Afterward, while people were drinking wine and talking under the afternoon light, Nora came up beside me with her phone already in her hand. "You need to see this," she said. It was my mother's Instagram story. A brunch table in Alexandria, her and Madison smiling into the camera over mimosas and eggs Benedict, posted that same afternoon, while I was getting married. A few days later, the family group chat lit up like nothing had happened. Madison asked if the wedding had been cute. My mother said she was sure it had been lovely and asked for photos. Brett made some smug comment about me marrying an investment guy. No apology, no explanation, not even the decency of pretending. I sat on my couch that night with the messages glowing across my screen while David cooked in the kitchen and gave me space. Nora called and asked if I was okay. I looked at the phone in my hand, then at the open laptop on the coffee table, and something in me finally stopped waiting. That was the night I made the folder. I named it one word: receipts. The first crack didn't come from me. It came from Brett. 2 weeks after my wedding, his next big project started falling apart. At first, it was just delays. Then missed payments. Then the contractor walked. Then the bank sent a notice that didn't leave room for interpretation. He needed millions. Fast. Or everything collapsed. And suddenly, the man who had laughed at David across the dinner table was calling every investment firm he could think of, trying to get someone, anyone, to take a meeting. Most of them didn't even return his calls. The few that did didn't last long once they looked at the numbers. Too many gaps. Too many assumptions. Too many things that didn't add up. There was one firm left, the last door still open: Ashford Capital. At the same time, my mother's world wasn't doing much better. 2 of her boutique locations were struggling. Rent increases, declining sales, no online presence because she had refused to build one. I knew that part because I had offered to help her with it, for free. She had smiled at me like I'd suggested something childish. "Sweetie, retail doesn't work like your little design projects." Now, retail was working exactly the way I'd warned her it would, and she needed money. A lot of it. My father had just lost his biggest client, too. Everything that looked stable suddenly wasn't. And none of them realized yet that the solution to all of it had been sitting quietly at my kitchen table every morning for months. They found out on a Tuesday, not because I told them, because someone else connected the dots. Brett's partner was putting together a pitch for Ashford Capital, standard research, who runs the fund, what they invest in. He pulled up an article, then he froze. "Wait, isn't this..." He turned his laptop toward Brett. The room went quiet. 3 seconds later, Brett's face drained of color. That same man who had dismissed David in a polo shirt was now staring at a profile photo in a tailored jacket, reading the words founder and CEO under his name. Within minutes, phones started ringing. Brett called Madison. Madison called my mother. My mother called my father. And somewhere in that chain, the truth spread faster than any apology ever had. David wasn't just in investments. He was the kind of person people like Brett begged for meetings with. Later, Nora told me how that conversation went. Not a single person asked why they hadn't been at my wedding. Not one. The first thing my mother said was, This changes everything. Then, call her. Then, be nice. Not apologize, not fix it, be nice. That was the strategy. Day 34. I woke up to my phone vibrating so hard it sounded like it might crack against the nightstand. I picked it up. Missed calls stacked on top of each other, messages, voicemails, emails, names I hadn't seen in weeks, suddenly everywhere at once. It didn't feel like concern. It felt like urgency. Like a door they had ignored was suddenly valuable. My mother had called more than anyone. "Stella, sweetheart, call me back. I miss you. We should do lunch. Bring David." Madison's text came next. "Why didn't you tell me? This is insane. We need to all get together." Brett left a voicemail that sounded rehearsed. "Hey, Stella, I think we got off on the wrong foot. I'd really like to connect with David, talk business." Talk business? 3 months earlier, he didn't even bother learning his last name. Now he wanted a meeting. My aunts, my cousins, even the ones who were too tired to drive 2 hours, suddenly had time. "We feel terrible about missing the wedding. When can we visit? Let's plan something soon." My dad sent one message. "I'm sorry, I should have been there." That was the only one that mentioned the wedding. And even that came too late. Exactly the same week they found out who David really was. David sat next to me while I scrolled. He didn't interrupt, didn't tell me what to do, just read quietly over my shoulder. Then said one thing. "Your decision." That was it. No pressure, no influence. Just space. I put the phone face down. I didn't answer a single message. 3 days later, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, my mother was standing there like nothing had happened. Perfect hair, perfect outfit, a gift basket in her hands like a prop. "Stella," she said, stepping forward before I could react, wrapping me in a hug that felt practiced. "I've missed you so much." She walked into my apartment without waiting. Her eyes moved quickly, scanning everything, the furniture, the walls, the space. Then she smiled. So cozy. She set the basket down and turned to me like we were picking up a conversation from yesterday. "So, David works in finance?" There it was. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just straight to the point. I leaned against the counter and looked at her. "You didn't come here because you missed me." Her smile tightened just a little. "That's not fair. You came because you Googled my husband." For a second, I saw it. That flicker of irritation she usually hid behind politeness. "I'm your mother." "Then act like one." Silence. I walked to the door and held it open. She stood there stunned, not because she didn't understand what was happening, but because I had said it out loud. Then she picked up the basket and left. I watched her from the window. Madison was in the passenger seat. They hadn't just shown up. They had planned it. After that, the tone changed. Fast. The calls weren't soft anymore. They were coordinated. Madison started first. "Mom is really upset. You're being cold." Brett followed with an email that looked like a business proposal. "We should explore opportunities together. This could benefit the entire family." My aunts called me difficult. My dad asked me to just come to dinner and let things settle. And someone even tagged me publicly in a post about how important family is. It wasn't about me anymore. It was about access. I blocked numbers. They called from new ones. I blocked those too. They used other people's phones. It felt like being surrounded by people who had never knocked before, but now wouldn't stop. David offered once. "I can shut this down." He could have. One phone call, one sentence, and it would have ended. I shook my head. "If you do that, they'll respect you, not me." He didn't argue. He just made dinner. We ate in silence. And for the first time, that silence didn't feel empty. It felt safe. Then came the voicemail. Late at night. My mother's voice. Different this time. Not polished, not controlled. Cracking. I know I haven't been perfect. I know I've made mistakes. But I'm your mother. Please don't shut me out. I sat on the edge of my bed and listened to it more than once. Because for a moment, it sounded real. And that scared me more than anything else. Because part of me wanted to believe it, wanted to go back, wanted to pretend that all of this could be fixed if I just tried one more time. My thumb hovered over the call button. And then I looked at the laptop on my desk, opened the folder, scrolled, stopped on one screenshot. A message my mother had sent to Madison before my wedding, telling her not to come, telling all of them not to come, saying I'd be fine, that I always was. I stared at that line for a long time. Then I closed the laptop, and something inside me finally settled into place. The next weekend, I sat at the table with David on one side and Nora on the other. Coffee going cold. A notepad in front of me. I'm not trying to hurt them, I said. I'm just done pretending this is okay. David leaned back. You should know something, he said calmly. Brett already submitted a deal to my firm. I looked up. And? It's not viable, he said. It wouldn't have passed regardless of you. Nora nodded slowly. So this ends on its own. Exactly. No revenge, no manipulation, just reality catching up. There's one thing, though, David added. 3 weeks from now, charity gala. I'm receiving an award. Nora slid a folder toward me. Inside were printouts, messages, everything I had saved. Just in case, she said. I looked down at it, all the proof. All the things they said when they thought I didn't matter. And for the first time, I didn't feel emotional about it. I felt clear, because if they showed up, they wouldn't be walking into a conversation. They'd be walking into the truth. I saw them before they saw me. Table 14, back corner of the room. Close enough to the stage to feel important, far enough to be overlooked. My mother in red, sitting too straight, scanning the room like she was searching for someone she thought she already knew. Madison beside her, one hand resting on her stomach, eyes moving quickly from face to face. Brett adjusting his cufflinks like he was about to pitch someone. My dad sat still, hands folded, eyes down. They were all looking for David. They didn't realize he was already in the room. With me. The gala felt like another world. High ceilings, marble floors, soft music echoing through the space. People who spoke quietly but carried weight in every word. The kind of room where reputations were built and quietly destroyed. David moved through it like he belonged there, because he did. People stopped him every few steps, shook his hand, smiled at me like they already knew who I was. You must be Stella. He talks about you all the time, I smiled. Nodded, said thank you, but my eyes kept drifting back to table 14, because for the first time, they were the ones who didn't belong. When his name was announced, the room shifted. You could feel it. Conversations softened. Chairs turned. Attention focused. David stood. So did I. Applause filled the room, steady and loud. But all I could see was my mother. Her hand froze halfway to her glass. That was the first time I had ever seen fear on her face. Real fear. His speech was calm, controlled, effortless. He didn't rush, didn't try to impress anyone. He talked about responsibility, about impact, about building something that lasts beyond money. People listened. They always did. Then, near the end, he paused, looked at me, and said, "The person who reminds me every day what actually matters is my wife." The spotlight shifted. Suddenly, it was on me. 400 people turning, watching, standing, applauding. And somewhere behind that light, my family was seeing me clearly for the first time in their lives. After the speech, it didn't take long. My mother stood first, straightened her shoulders, smoothed her dress, put on that practiced smile I knew too well. Then she walked toward me. Madison and Brett followed like they were part of the same performance. "Stella," she said, arms open wide. "Look at you. We are so proud of you." She reached for me. I didn't move. The air between us held just long enough for people nearby to notice. "Hi, Mom," I said evenly. "It's interesting seeing you here." Her smile flickered, just slightly. "Oh, don't be like that. We came to support you." I held her gaze. "You came because Brett needs money." The words landed harder than I expected. The couple standing beside us went quiet. Someone behind her stopped mid-step. Even Madison froze. My mother recovered quickly. She always did. "This isn't the place for that conversation." "You're right," I said calmly. "The place was my wedding." Silence. Brett stepped in, lowering his voice like that would somehow contain the moment. "Let's talk privately," he said. "There's an opportunity here." I reached into my clutch, pulled out a single folded page, held it out to him. "This is what you said the week of my wedding." He hesitated before taking it. His eyes moved quickly across the paper. His face changed. That's not how it was meant." I didn't let him finish. I turned to my mother, pulled out another page. "And this is what you told everyone else." Her lips parted. No words came out. "I have the message," I said quietly. "The one where you told them not to come?" Madison's voice broke in. "Stella, you're taking this too far." I looked at her. "No," I said. "You took it too far. You had a party people flew across the country for. I had a wedding people couldn't drive to." The room had grown quieter. Not dramatically, just enough. People were listening now. Not staring, listening. I folded the pages slowly and put them back. "You didn't show up when it mattered," I said. "You showed up when it became useful." Brett's composure cracked first. "This is business," he said, sharper now. "You can't mix personal feelings into something like this." David stepped forward. He hadn't interrupted once, not until now. "The decision's already been made," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. Brett turned toward him. "What do you mean?" "Your proposal was reviewed weeks ago. And rejected. Just like that, no drama. No hesitation." Brett blinked like he hadn't processed it yet. "That doesn't make sense." "It does," David said calmly. "The numbers don't work." It wasn't about me. And somehow that made it worse. My mother reached for my hand. Her grip was tighter this time. "Stella," she said softly, trying a different tone. "We're family." I gently pulled my hand away. "You decided what that meant already." Madison was crying now. "This isn't fair," she said. "I'm about to have a baby." I looked at her, and for a second I felt it. That old instinct to soften, to comfort, to step back. Then I remembered the empty chairs. "I hope someone shows up for you," I said. The words stayed in the air. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. My dad finally stepped forward, slowly, like he had been deciding whether or not to say anything at all. "I'm sorry," he said. That was it, just that. And for a moment, I almost believed him. But timing matters. And his came too late. "I know," I said quietly. Then I turned, took David's arm, and walked away. Behind me, I could feel it. Not just their silence, the shift. People had seen enough, heard enough. And once something like that becomes visible, you can't make it invisible again. The fallout didn't take long. It started quietly. Then everything collapsed at once. Brett's deal never recovered. No new investors, no extensions, no second chances. Within weeks, the bank moved in. The project he had bragged about, the one he said would change everything, was taken from him. Frozen mid-construction. half-finished concrete staring out over the water like a reminder of bad decisions. He lost the company, then the house, then whatever image he had been selling to everyone else. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part came after. Madison found the numbers. At first, it was just confusion. Transactions that didn't make sense. Charges that didn't match any project. Accounts she didn't recognize. Then she started digging. And what she found wasn't just financial. It was personal. Hotels in cities he wasn't supposed to be in. Expenses for two. An apartment under a name she had never heard before. 6 months. That's how long it had been going on. Through her pregnancy. Through that entire perfect life they had been showing everyone. She called me in the middle of the night. Her voice didn't sound like her anymore. No filters. No performance. No control. "I didn't know," she said. There was a long pause. "I'm sorry. About everything." I didn't say anything right away, because for the first time in years, she sounded real. But reality at 2 a.m, after everything falls apart, doesn't erase what came before. "I'll think about it," I said, and I meant it. But not that night. I ended the call and set the phone down. David didn't ask what she said. He didn't need to. He just stayed there, quiet, the way he always did when something mattered. My mother's situation wasn't any better. One store closed, then another, racks emptied, lights turned off, signs taken down. The places she had built her identity around started disappearing one by one. And the people she had spent years trying to impress, they disappeared faster. Calls stopped. Invitations stopped. Even my dad's business took a hit. Clients pulled back. One of them didn't even give a reason, just gone. The same way he had been at my wedding. At some point, my mother tried to change the narrative. She posted a photo of me as a kid, paint on my hands, smiling at the camera. "Proud of my daughter," she wrote. Like that one sentence could rewrite 30 years. I reported the post. Then I blocked her. A few weeks later, I sat at my desk. Same one-bedroom apartment. Same space. But I wasn't the same person sitting there. I took out paper. Real paper. And I started writing. Not emotional, not reactive. Clear, direct. For each of them. I told them exactly what they had done, exactly what it meant, and exactly what was changing. No accusations. No anger. Just truth. When I finished, I read everything once. Then I mailed them. Certified. Tracked. Delivered. After that, I changed my number. Blocked every account. Every contact. Every way they could reach me. Nora was the only exception. Emergency only, nothing else. That night, standing on the balcony with David, the city quiet below us, I realized something I hadn't felt in a long time. There was no waiting anymore, no hoping, no checking my phone. Just silence. And for the first time, it didn't feel lonely. It felt like peace. For a while, everything stayed quiet. Not the kind of quiet that feels empty, the kind that feels settled. 6 months passed. Brett filed for bankruptcy. The company was gone for good. What he built turned into paperwork and court filings, nothing more. Madison left him, no big announcement, no dramatic post, just one day she wasn't there anymore. She moved back in with my parents, carrying boxes into the same house where everything had started. A few weeks later, she had her daughter, a little girl. She named her Hope. I didn't hear about it from her. Nora told me. "She's doing things differently," she said. "At least, she's trying." Madison didn't call. She didn't push. She didn't try to break the boundary. But a few months later, a card showed up through Nora. Handwritten. No long explanations. Just a few lines. She said she understood now. That she didn't expect anything from me. That she'd wait, however long it took. Inside the card was a small photo. Her daughter. I left it on my desk. I didn't frame it, but I didn't hide it either. David picked it up one night and smiled. "She's beautiful." "She is," I said. And I meant it. I just didn't know yet what that meant for us. My mother closed another store, then another. What was left of her business was barely holding on. The same people who used to stand next to her at events stopped calling. The same ones who praised her taste and her success suddenly had other plans. My dad downsized everything. Smaller office, fewer clients. He sent a letter through Nora, not asking for money, just asking to talk. I read it. Then I folded it and put it away. Not thrown out, not answered, just set aside. And me? I signed a contract with the foundation from that night. A real one. Biggest project I had ever taken on. They didn't care who I married. They cared about what I could do. David and I moved out of the city. Not far, just far enough. A house with space. Quiet mornings. No noise from anything that didn't belong to us. I turned one of the rooms into a studio, and one afternoon, I finally took that painting out. The one I made when I was 14. The one no one came to see. I hung it above the fireplace, not because it needed to be seen, because I finally had a place that deserved it. A few weeks later, I found myself sitting outside with a cup of coffee. Late afternoon. Wind moving through the trees. Everything slow. David came out and sat next to me. He didn't ask what I was thinking. He never did. He just sat there. I looked down at my phone. No missed calls. No messages. No group chats lighting up with noise that didn't mean anything. Just quiet. The same quiet I used to be afraid of. But now it felt different. Full. Complete. Like nothing was missing. I used to think love was about being chosen, about proving you were worth showing up for. But that wasn't it. Love is who stays when there's nothing to gain. And sometimes the hardest thing you can do isn't fighting to be seen. It's walking away from people who never tried to see you at all. I didn't lose my family. I just stopped waiting for them. And that changed everything. If you were in my place, would you have done the same?